Hi everybody, this is Father Warner D'Souza. Today we will reflect on the text of Luke chapter 13 verses 31 to 35. In Luke chapter 9 verse 51, Jesus began his long march to Jerusalem, a march that ends in chapter 19 verse 28, referred to as Luke's journey narrative. In this 5-verse pericope, Jesus seems to be receiving some unsolicited advice from the Pharisees. They inform him that Herod is out to kill him, and the best thing he should do is to get away from there. There is no clarity as to what is the real motivation of this advice from the Pharisees. Luke in his Gospel and in the Acts has also portrayed some of the Pharisees in good light, a case in point being Gamaliel, and at the same time exposed their narrow-mindedness and hypocrisy, as in Luke chapter 11 verse 37 to 53. So one is left a bit perplexed as to why they would insinuate that Herod wanted to kill Jesus. Luke in chapter 9 verse 7 to 9 and 23 verse 8 does not indicate that Herod wanted to kill Jesus. But then again, we have Herod who executed John the Baptist in chapter 3 verse 19 to 20, and again a reference in 9:9. In any case, Jesus was not one to be dictated to, nor does he seem overawed by the threat posed by Herod. Jesus has clearly set his own timetable, and God, and not Herod, is in charge of who dies when. Jesus does not run away, but rather sends a stinging message back to Herod. He calls him a fox. His integrity was a strength against those who relied on their ability to be violent. As he told Pilate, "My kingdom is not of this world." Jesus took his orders from God, and he would not shorten his work by one day to please or to escape an earthly king. He refuses to be distracted from his mission of exorcism and healing. Christ clearly has his work mandated for him, and divine will must prevail over local politics. The fact that Jesus views it more urgent to go to Jerusalem because of God's will than to heed Herod's warnings seems to indicate that the ultimate concern is theological. Yet, it is the same city of God's habitation, as we see in Deuteronomy chapter 12 verse 5, that becomes the seat of violent opposition to God. Jerusalem is not only the place of Jesus' murder, but also its agent. It is for this city that Jesus has both words of fierce denunciation, yet one sees a vulnerability in his compassion. It is this city that killed the prophets and stoned those sent to it. Verse 35 is clearly a reference to the events of AD 70, when the Romans finally destroyed the city and burned down the temple. The voice of God, however, is still crying out in compassion. Jesus bears his vulnerability in the face of opposition, even for a city and her people that have rejected the prophets and will finally reject him. Throughout salvation history, God, through the prophets, has attempted to gather together the children of Jerusalem like a hen gathers her chicks when danger is sensed. But they refuse to accept God's love. What then is our takeaway, my dear brothers and sisters? First, we must persevere in doing good even in the face of great difficulty. This is a great grace that God gives to us. Often our lives, like the Lord, is faced with several hardships. Jesus accepted the cross not only in his crucifixion, but in the many small choices that led him to Jerusalem. Pastorally, we have to wear many hats and play many roles. The heart of Jesus had to speak in two voices, a voice of courage, facing down Herod the king as a fox, the symbol of destructive cunning, and at the same time, a voice of grief when he weeps over Jerusalem. Often we do not speak up as Jesus did against Herod, because we are afraid of what we might lose, that we might lose much. Ironically, when we live in the fear of what we might lose, we become even more vulnerable and open to threats. I want to thank you for listening to these messages, and I hope that they nourish your soul and your heart. Please do subscribe to our channel and have a blessed day.